All right, welcome everyone. We're going to give it another few seconds to allow people to get in, and we'll be starting right on time at 11. All right, I'm going to get started. Well, here we are. Welcome to day one of our 3-day Toluna digital launch event. Each day, we will focus on a critical function of the insights collection process and how our new consumer intelligence platform, Toluna Start, as a t-shirt, can deliver agility, speed, quality to your organization. As you can probably tell, I'm coming to you live from my home in the Washington, D.C. area. Like many of you, I'm currently sharing my home/workspace with my family. That includes 2 young children that are in virtual learning and a puppy. So I apologize in advance for any background noises you may hear, and we'll just kind of roll with it, right? We have jam-packed a ton of valuable information, product demonstrations, and panel discussions with industry leaders in a 90-minute window. So lots to do. We have a great roster of presenters, speakers, and most importantly, attendees from a wide range of backgrounds within the insights industry. So I thank you all for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedules to join us today. My name is Phil. I'm the Chief Digital Officer here at Toluna, Harris Interactive, and Crew Run Data. I was honored and quite frankly felt a little good about myself when our marketing and events team asked me to moderate this event. It felt really, really good up until the point they told me that my main KPI for success as this moderator was to keep us on time and schedule. So here I am living the dream as a professional timekeeper for the next 3 days. Anyway, we have a lot of fun and exciting things to showcase today. For those of you that don't know this is Toluna's 20th anniversary. And originally we had planned for this event to be held in person to celebrate our 20 years of excellence, the launch of the Toluna Start platform, and to roll out our new brand. We had grand ideas of a black t-shirt type gala where our CEO and founder, Frederic Charles Petit, would be on stage conducting an Apple type of product reveal and all the glamour and glitz that comes with that. But as we know, 2020 had different plans for all of us. And just like the market research industry today, we have to be agile and adapt to the world around us. Before we get into all the fun, we need to take a moment to go through some housekeeping items. So I'm going to take myself off screen and I'm going to run through a quick agenda. As I mentioned, we packed the agenda today with amazing presenters all on deck and ready to go. I'll kickstart today with a quick introduction to Toluna and an introduction to our new Toluna Start consumer intelligence platform. The focus of this event is centered around agile real-time insights, and today we will focus on new product development with this core capability in mind. Our first session dives deep into the possibilities of transforming your approach to agile insights and to drive high-impact quality decisions faster. Susan Vidler, our managing director at Harris Interactive, who is by far the smartest person I've ever met, actually gives me a little anxiety every time I talk to her, but anyway, that's besides the point, will provide us an insight into the changing needs and drivers for more agile NPD solutions and how Toluna Start helps you meet that challenge. Susan's presentation will then lead us into a platform demonstration of the powerful NPD insights you can collect in real time using the automated solutions within Toluna Start. Debbie Senior, our Vice President of Product Automation, will be showcasing the project setup, the high-impact deliverables that you get generated automatically from Toluna Start. Next, we'll dive into a roundtable discussion to hear from insights leaders from Facebook, Mondelez, Premier Foods, and JTI on why agility in the NPD process is critical to the success of their organizations. And if I've done my job right, then at the 85-minute mark, we should be headed into a wrap-up and a quick preview of what's in store for day 2. I do want to quickly remind all of you that while this event is only 90 minutes, we are available to answer any questions you have about Toluna Group or Toluna Start at our 24/7 live discussion chat at tolunalive.com. We have subject matter experts online at all time. Actually, hearing me say that felt very telethonish, so I'm sorry about that, but all lines are open during and after the presentations. All right, let's get on with the show. For those of you who aren't familiar with us, Toluna Group is a global real-time insights firm covering Toluna, Harris Interactive, and crew-run data. Toluna was founded 20 years ago by Frederic with the idea to democratize market research, empower all business decision makers with the right data to make the best informed decision in real time. Over the course of 20 years, we've evolved to cover all aspects of the market research collection process and fuse the best of human insights with the best of technology to help you make better decisions faster and drive positive results to your organization. Today, we're a unique mix of skills covering technology, research expertise, and own one of the largest global consumer insights communities in the world. Our staff of 1,400 forward-thinking professionals span 26 offices around the globe. We strive to be a global group that can deliver your needs locally if and when needed. We're heavily invested in technology and believe strongly that powerful technology focused on agility and automation will help you stay ahead of fast-moving consumer sentiments and behaviors. If 2020 has taught us anything, it's that agility and real-time data collection is core to any insights program. And finally, the ability to reach the right people at the right moment to ask them the right question is critical to the success of any research study. We all know quality plays a key role across the insights collection process, and our ability to tap into over 30 million consumers across 70 countries with a deep degree of profiling means that you can build and reach the right audience every time. Now, hopefully you've heard by now, on Monday, we launched the next evolution of our technology stack, Toluna Start. This is the first true end-to-end consumer intelligence platform delivering the best of both DIY research and traditional research. You gain the flexibility, speed, and value of DIY technology while maintaining the quality, expertise, and collaboration of traditional research. Now, I know what you're thinking, that's hard to believe. And trust me when I tell you, it was incredibly hard to build. And this was a 10-year evolution for us. It all started with an online community panel that grew into a DIY survey platform called Quick Surveys. Then things really started coming together when we acquired Harris Interactive and started integrating proven research methodology into our tech stack to automate the insights collection process in real time from project setup to actionable reports and deliverables. Today, it's not good enough just to have great technology. Even great technology can deliver bad research or biased results in the wrong user's hands. And that's what brings us to this moment in time, utilizing consumer intelligence platforms and technologies, which can cover all aspects of the research process, such as audiences, sample, communities, surveys, analytics, and integrating with proven research methodology at every step, if and when you need it. Toluna Start is built for professional researchers all the way to the novice. Toluna Start packages all of Toluna's proprietary market research products under one platform, accessible through an easy-to-use interface. The intuitive nature of the setup process is built with a deep understanding of the research process. It is truly a technology for researchers by understanding the researcher's needs. A professional researcher is empowered with all the tools needed to build complex, high-impact surveys, launch longitudinal custom communities, and set up a pop-up community, and even create standardized automated projects for anyone in their organization to leverage, use, and disseminate information. The novice user in need of research or the professional researcher in need of time or speed can tap into the automated insight solutions covering every type of research, from project to concept, ad testing, comms, brand health, and much more. And if that wasn't enough, if you don't have time or simply the desire to DIY your projects, don't worry, you can send that to the Toluna team. So what makes us different? Toluna Start is exactly what we wanted to showcase to you today and over these next 3 days. It's easy to talk about it, and to be honest, just about every provider in our space today just talks about it. This is exactly what I just did. But today, we will show you why this is different, and you will have the opportunity to test drive the platform for yourself. We all want and should demand the best of both DIY research and traditional research without sacrificing quality or cutting corners during the insights collection process. Quite frankly, that is what's disruptive to our industry, and that's what democratizing research means to us. Our focus as we started to build this platform was to utilize our proprietary technologies to make insights collection easy and flexible, by integrating seamlessly panel access and proven methodology, your methodology or ours, to ensure high quality standards that delivers speed, reliability, and value. You shouldn't have to compromise your research program, and you never have to with Toluna Start. Now, enough talk from me. I know I said a mouthful, so I apologize for just throwing that all on you guys right now. But onto the stuff that really brought you to this event. The great Susan Vidler will now expand on the industry and client challenges driving the need for more agile research and why it's critical for the success of your product development program. Susan, off to you.
Thanks, Phil, and thank you for the slightly overwhelming introduction. But as you've heard from Phil, the Toluna Start platform has really been developed to meet the current and the future needs of brands and agencies in the market. We just want to take a few minutes to expand on that, and specifically in relation to new product development or NPD research, and really understand what the needs are in this space, how those needs are evolving, and how those needs are actually going to be addressed in terms of the platform. And that will be shown by a demonstration from my colleague Debbie following this presentation. At Harris, we've been developing and helping clients to make business decisions across the entire innovation cycle for over 20 years. For many organizations, NPD research follows an innovation cycle similar to the one that you can see on the slide here. The cycle covers all the steps from identifying an initial need all the way through to developing a concept and then a product or a service that's really ready for launch. But as we all know, unfortunately, the majority of new products actually fail. And although there's a lot of debate about the exact percentages based on what category or what market you're in or which market you're serving, one of the things that most marketeers actually agree on is that the majority of product launches unfortunately fail. So developing new products and developing new services requires significant investment from a company. Therefore, it's critical that the process is informed by the consumer to ensure it meets the needs as well as meets the needs of the consumer as well as it meets the needs of the business prior to launch. So investing time and effort in NPD research will almost certainly not be the only reason a product is successful. However, it really helps to mitigate the risks of costly errors at different stages in the process by putting the consumer needs at the heart of the decision-making process. The need for NPD research is clear, and within that, the organizations and the business issues that we work with, their issues haven't really changed at all. What has changed is the way in which the research needs to be conducted. So, for example, we still want to understand what concept will be most successful, or what is the optimum range of products, or which claim can be used to increase uptake. But actually, the way in which the research needs to be conducted has needed to change, because the way in which the organizations that we're working with, their environments have changed, and we need to adapt for that. And in my view, it's not all about speed. So we'll hear about speed all the time, and absolutely it's a critical factor, but it's not the only part of the process, and it's not the only thing driving change. It's about using automation, it's about using technology to meet the need for speed, for quality, for ease of use, for flexibility, for value, all at the same time. Expectations have risen on all elements of speed, of quality, and what technology can enable in terms of the research process. The pressure on brands and agencies to do more with less continues, and efficiencies are needed at every stage of the process. Added to this, the impact of the global pandemic has really only increased pressures on many aspects of our lives and the businesses in which we operate. Organizations have had to adapt their product and service portfolios to meet these changing needs. Our way of life has changed, and some behaviors honestly may have changed forever. Testing products and testing services to ensure that they're going to be relevant going forward has always been important, but now it's more critical than ever before. The drivers of change, so these challenges that are faced by organizations, yes, they were definitely present before COVID-19, but for some organizations, COVID-19 has really increased that pace of change in line with changing consumer behaviors. We've seen research conducted to really assess behaviors, to assess attitudes, to assess preferences throughout the pandemic as clients adapt and adjust their innovation sprints to develop and test new products and service ideas to meet these needs. And as spending and consumer habits have changed, the businesses that can adapt, they have, and they've taken advantage of the opportunity. So to give you a few examples, beauty brands have been understanding trends for in-home treatments. Gaming companies have been working with us to test new products to increase demand as people are spending more time on media and entertainment services. The subscription service providers have been testing new services and content as demand increases. And OTC providers and providers of household cleaning products have been testing new claims to ensure that they really resonate with their consumers. And we've seen from our own 2020 consumer barometer, which we've been running every 2 weeks since the end of March, that globally, consumers are not only expecting to spend more on certain products, but they're also looking for real innovation in these categories as well. We've seen this across a number of categories, such as household cleaning or personal care, healthcare, entertainment, subscription services, and home improvement items. And we're only speaking to a colleague earlier and saying there's a big rise in terms of in-home cooking as well. So being able to adapt quickly has been critical for brands over the last few months. And as a result, we've seen a really significant increase in studies using Agile solutions needed to be completed in 24 hours to meet these needs and new needs of the organizations. Most of the challenges that the organizations we've been speaking to or working with face could be grouped into a number of key areas, which I'll go through now. And these are the drivers that have really informed the development of the platform. Technology and automation as a part of that have really enabled the key drivers of more agile MPD to become a reality, and they're incorporated into all the themes that I'll mention. So the first theme or the first driver is speed. And as we all know, the pace at which innovation sprints and MPD cycles have now been completed are going faster than ever before. And the time to market is really shrinking. So having pre-templated questionnaires already set up for various elements of the innovation process, like concept testing or pack testing, using an organization's preferred design or one that we can provide for you based on best practice, means that organizations don't waste time, they don't waste resources with multiple members of their teams designing questionnaires from scratch for every project, enabling their teams to do what they do best and to add value. So for example, during the last few months, during COVID-19, we've helped clients screen hundreds and hundreds of ideas. And an example of that, just to give you an idea of the speed, is, for one client, we're screening over 270 ideas for new products across 2 brands, 10 different markets, all in 9 days. And there's so many examples I could give you of how research is needed to inform decisions that need to be taken at very specific meetings, where the deadline is really set for that decision. And it's the research process that needs to adapt and be ready to go in these instances. The second theme is quality. So in the past, speed and quality were often traded off against one another, but now that's not the case. But now technology can really enable best practice methodology and the rigor that is required to be embedded into the solutions. So the design and the quality checks are thought through in advance, saving time at the point of use. Pre-templated questionnaires, standardization of approaches, and of the data visualization tools aid this process, but as does the ability to understand, what does good look like via the application of norms and scaling the approaches effectively across the organization. In addition to this, the ability to access functionality, so functionality such as quota balancing capabilities or relevant variables such as blocks of questions to test pricing using standard techniques like Van Westendorp, or to use heat maps, or to use timed exposure functionality, it increases the quality options for the studies that are being designed. Quality is also supported within the platform by the ability to share best practice questionnaires and projects globally or across multiple users or teams, so the knowledge estate within a business can be leveraged and organizations really can start to do more with less. So in terms of ease of use, brands and agencies expect to work with technology that is easy to use and is intuitive. Some organizations may want to use the platform themselves, so they may want to do projects DIY, and others may want a fully serviced option. But as we're seeing often, many organizations also want something in between. So having an easy to use platform that can be used DIY when required or serviced when required, but actually all your projects are kept within one account for all your team to be viewed is an easier to use option. In ability, the need to kind of visualize results in an easy to use format is also key. So if you're sharing results with different stakeholders or across teams within your organizations, this is really critical. And when working at pace, many organizations need to share results either real time or at the end of a project with stakeholders who may not be researchers or they may not be in insight roles. Therefore, they need to be presented in a really clear and easy to use format. Added to this, the ability to conduct both qual and quant projects easily on a platform is also really a key benefit for many organizations, making it a much easier to use option. We really understand that flexibility is key. And in the past, it was a bespoke option or a fully standardized automated solution with very little or no flexibility at all, and a greater level of customization and flexibility for those who require it has been factored into the automated solutions. So flexibility has been added in terms of the ability to add additional questions, whether or not you want to use a monadic or a sequential monadic design, but also flexibility in terms of service levels. So if you want DIY, if you want assistance, or you actually just want someone else to do the whole project fully serviced for you. Brands and agencies have more than one way of working. Sometimes they may be a DIY user. Other times they may prefer a fully serviced solution, which our experts can provide. The flexibility is now a choice and not something that needs to be decided for a whole organization or for a whole project. And as an example of this, we've recently worked with a client to get the most out of their 2-day innovation workshop. So at the end of the day, we'll have screened all their ideas from the first day overnight. So for the second day of their workshop, they can really focus on the best ideas to take forward, help them maximizing their time and taking the effort required out of the process. And then of course there's value. Ensuring value is always important. But as agencies are expected to do more with less, and as the current economic challenges post the outbreak of coronavirus take hold, ensuring value is really key. Therefore, having an end-to-end platform that is easy to use, that is flexible, that enables quality insights at pace, supports these needs, and we've seen that the market is able to provide that and provide the value that is required. Technology is not a separate driver, it's an enabler. And it enables all the previous points to make Agile MPD a reality, And as you'll see, there's even further enhancements coming as we continue to develop. So just to recap, the need for MPD research is clear, and the business problems we help organizations solve have not changed a great deal. However, what has changed is the way the research needs to be conducted in order to really better support the organizations and the environments and the markets in which the companies we're working with operate in. Addressing the key drivers of Agile MPD research has been at the heart of the development of the Toluna Start platform. And I'm now going to hand you over to my colleague, Debbie. Debbie's our VP of Automated Solutions, and she's going to take you through a demonstration of Toluna Start, really demonstrating how those needs have been addressed and really focusing on the MPD solutions.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you very much, Susan, and hi, everybody. So this is the moment. So basically, I've logged into our platform. It's a very, very easy single login. And what you're going to find straight away is what we call our home page or our home dashboard. And within this dashboard, you'll see everything that you actually could possibly need. So right at the top here will be your most recent projects. You'll be able to see which ones you've got live, which ones are pending, which one are paused. You can edit surveys that are still not live, and those you've got paused or closed, you'll be able to go and actually access the report straight away. There's another area called the All Projects or My Projects, and from here you'll be able to see everything you've ever launched, including those of your team members when you're collaborating in real time on different surveys. And within that, you'll also be able to access any reports that have been run with those surveys. You can create any custom survey that you wish, and you can also make use of any of our automated solutions, set them up and launch them literally within minutes. If you want some information about our branded communities or to obtain our behavioural data, you can also contact us very easily and we'll sort of get that set up for you. Over here is more about our qual. So the live discussion, again, is something you can set up and launch on your own. And it's our qual forum that Susan alluded to. And also here is our help sort of section with some FAQs and information that you can sort of be self-serve on. So basically everything is sort of held in this one place. I'm going to focus on sort of concept and pack testing for today, but in other sort of events, we'll actually delve a little bit more deeply into the platform for you. So here goes. What do we start with each of our automated solutions? So what you're going to get is a set of what we call define pages, or what we internally call our wizard. It is pretty magical. It's something you can do within minutes. And what it means is everything you put in here will automatically populate behind the scenes into your survey. So it's all about speed and making this as easy as possible for anyone to use. Instantly, you can see you can add a logo, you can have a different internal and external survey name. The audience is all about the language and the market you're trying to reach. The category and subcategory, so we can actually provide more relevant norms for your surveys. And we also have, for these last ones, the subcategory, what you're testing, i.e. product or service, or the alternative wording to purchase intent. These are sort of smart ways of actually piping through very specific information into the survey itself to make it more relevant for the respondent. So just as an example, if you were actually doing a service and not a product, you can choose from a number of options that will change that purchase intent wording to make it more accurate for that particular environment. The next level is all about sort of brands. So this has a slightly different use in each of our solutions. For concept testing, if you're branding your concept testing, this is where you set up your brand information, a logo, a name, and whether it's your own brand or it's a competitor. The next phase is pretty important because it's all about setting up the actual concepts or the items that you're testing. So with both concept and pack, you can actually define up to 12 different pieces of stimulus and options within each survey. One of the things at the top here is just a note, but you'll see it if you go and use the stimulus here, is a real time saver. You can upload things, but you can also just drag and drop the files that you need very, very quickly. And you can test video, image, text, and a combination of those as well. This area is all about defining what you're going to test in terms of the number of items. So we've got 3 concepts set up here, and over here is actually how many are going to be visible for each of those respondents. We've set it at 2. What that means is this is sequential monadic. So of those 3, there'll be a random set of 2 concepts being fed to a particular respondent. If I sort that to 1, it would actually give me a monadic, which means that only 1 is actually sourced to each respondent. There's a great text highlighter question, so you can toggle this on and off. And I've got it on for this particular survey, and I've pasted my text that I actually want the respondent to have a look at below. So you can have 200 words, and this could be a message or claim or whatever you want to add in about a concept or a pack. And when the respondent sees this text, they can actually highlight in red and green which of the items and specific words they like or they dislike about it to give you a more nuanced view. You can also have branded or non-branded, and you can put the price in, and also with an item like it's for a litre or for a certain size if you're doing sort of a pack test. And then the final page on the concept is all about the actual metrics we include. So Susan alluded to the sort of the Serviced and the Harris side of the business. These have actually come from Harris sort of research teams who've used their expertise and the methodology and the robust metrics that we've used for concept testing for a number of years. And these will be familiar to anybody who's done a concept test. If you hover over each of them, you'll actually get what that question entails. We've given a few here that if you just want to do a smaller survey, what we think our minimum number of questions would be for each test. You'll find that all of them are selected as default, but if you didn't actually want to ask something, you just untick it, and absolutely that's fine. It won't go through to the modified questionnaire phase, and it won't get asked in the survey. We've also got some basic claims elements that some clients like as a module, and again, you just paste the text that you need in the corresponding box. The other item that you can do in each survey is enable the stimulus to be viewed again in the thumbnail, so they can actually zoom as well and click on that thumbnail. But that's just acts as a good reminder, particularly if it's a complex item that you're testing, for the respondent to see at certain questions. So you can see it's all pretty straightforward and very, very fast. We do have some slight differences for each of the solutions, but we also have built each solution to have familiar items. When you're using multiple solutions, we want it to be as easy and simple as possible. So the important element here is we've got the same sort of homepage sort of set up on the define page, just as you saw in concept earlier. The brand page, again, is very similar, but it plays a different role for pack testing. So not only is it about having branded packs, we have a particular question that we ask as soon as we've shown the pack for the first time. And we ask the respondent to say which brand was it for. And if you ask that question, then all of these brands form the answer set for that particular question. So it's got a slightly different nuance. Again, defining the packs has got a lot of similarities to what we've seen before, but there's one key difference here. We have what we call a shelf display. So rather than just uploading an individual pack image, you can actually upload an image where your pack is in the context of your competitor packs. And that's sort of simulating the sort of real environment that different respondents are going to see, and to make it more realistic. And you can upload both of those types and test both types within the same survey. The next phase is very unique to pack. So what we're replicating here is a really important step of when you're at that moment where you're choosing a pack and a product off a shelf, whether that's online or in a supermarket. You do so pretty quickly. There's lots of behavioral science that tell us that automatic subconscious decisions happen. And what we're trying to replicate here is literally what that timed exposure entails. So you can test up to 6 individual or 6 shelf. You can set the actual duration of each of those exposures, and you can ask different follow-up questions. So the pack brands here is the brand recognition one, which gives the list and asks, what did you see? And then we've got 3 open-end, about asking sort of different details about that particular pack. And so all very, very sort of simple and straightforward. And if you do the shelf option, you'll get a separate page to complete for that particular item. And then again, you've got the metrics. So all are selected. There are some similar metrics here because there are some which are important for both concept and pack in our view, but there are also some differences. And one of the key ones is the heat map. So we've actually embedded a set of 8 heat map questions, and this is all about getting the nuance of the pack. So what we show is the pack and the individual pack, and we ask the respondent to click on anything that they like, dislike, find different or find confusing. And that gives you a really granular view as to what's actually working on the pack and what's not working on the pack. So as I said, it's sort of literally a case of minutes to sort of set that up. Your survey gets populated as soon as you click, I'm done and I'm finished. And then it will take you to our target page. So obviously this is an important moment because this is all about reaching the exact audience that's important for your survey. And Phil mentioned earlier about the size of the panel. Toluna's got one of the world's largest panels, 30 million people over 70 markets. There's a lot of different people you could potentially target. You can focus on different demographics, and you can focus on different profiles that are already tied to our panel. You can also set up your own custom pre-screeners. Here I've done an option which is about sort of purchase frequency, but you can put whoever you want to target, whether it's people who buy cereal bars or people who drink certain types of tea or coffee or whatever it might be. When you've actually set those up, so I've created an interlocked version here. So I've got gender, I've got different age groups, and I've also tied in different frequencies of who buys cereal bars. So that gives me a very nuanced view of the target audience. But another special feature here is all around quota balancing. So it's not just about reaching those people, it's also about making sure that the proportions of these different quota groups are balanced across each of the concepts and packs that you're going to test. And that means you get a more accurate insight at the end of doing that. We're very proud of that particular feature. So at that point, you could actually go straight to launch. If you've used this a few times, you're familiar with the survey, you don't need to adapt it or add anything else. You literally can go and press the button and off you go. But whilst we've automated, we want to make sure there's absolute flexibility. And again, Susan touched on this point. It's not just about speed, although that is absolutely critical. So what we've done here is given that level of customization. So maybe I'll just explain. The first part that's populated is actually a technical quality question that we've built in. So we want to make sure that whatever you're testing can be seen and heard in the survey by the respondent. Obviously, it's a really important point. So what we do is we have some mock-up stimulus that we test in advance, and anybody who cannot see or hear that actually gets screened out of the survey at that particular point in time. You then have all of your wizard or define options already populated for you. So you click on each concept and you can see exactly that all the questions are there that you've selected. If you decide you want to move those questions, then you can click on this button here and move things around. If you actually want to edit parts of that question text, then you absolutely can do that. And if you want to get rid of something at this point, you realize you don't want to include it, you can press the delete button. So that's the flexibility we discussed. And you can also add any of your own custom questions. So as long as obviously it's within respondent engagement and length of interview and it makes sense, you can choose from any of our customized options here and build your own questions to add at any stage of that survey. And if you're doing a concept, because the heat map's not fully embedded as such like pack, you can just drag and drop the heat map widget very, very easily to a concept test as well. So again, the modification is pretty straightforward. I won't sort of go into these in detail, but you've then got the possibility of clicking on the theme, and what that means is you can change the look and feel, the colors and the fonts of your survey before it's sent out. And then obviously you get to the launch page where you can do a full test if you want. You can preview in the modified questionnaire, but you can do a full test as a respondent would see it at that particular point in launch. So we've talked about the sort of setup, the wizard and the target, all very sort of easy to use. As soon as you click launch and we start getting respondents going to your survey, what will happen is those people and the answers that they've given will automatically in real time feed through to an info board for the solutions and also our analytics tool. So what you can see on screen here is the first page of the info board. Now we've built this so anybody who just wants a very quick snapshot of the information can get that immediately. So these are the KPIs, this is the top 2 box scores of all the items that you've tested. And you can see on this particular one, we've also built stats testing in. So that will show by a little star. And this shows automatically of 4 of the 7 items, concept 3 is the downright winner. So that's very easy to view. You could then take a decision straight off the back of that if you wanted. But there's a lot more information in here. You can also click on some of the other questions we have, like brand appeal, the preference questions that we've got. We've got some statement correlations, so not just getting answers on the attributes, we actually correlate how much they are at driving purchase intent. And that's all on a side-by-side comparison view. For particular concepts or packs, you can then drill down into the individual view. So here, if you want to look at any particular KPI, look at the rating scale option, not just the top 2 box, then it's there for you to do that. And again, the same on the attributes that you test, you can see full scale. And the likes and dislikes, you get a word cloud for those particular open ends. The other feature of the info board is a filtering feature. So what we've seen so far is on the total sample. But assuming you've got sufficient base size in your survey, you can then actually pick on a set number of demographics that we've already built in. Or as I've done here, I've gone to the analytics tool and actually picked up a custom filter. So it could have been usage that you saw earlier. And here I've picked main salary earner. And it's a case of you just pick and choose which one you want, press apply. And then that automatically, just as in this example, I've just chosen age for this particular example, but it will go through and actually filter your info board results for the whole of the info board. So you get a very, very different view. And you can see here, we had 4 out of 7 were significantly different for concept 3. For this particular age group, we've got 2 of them, and also a slightly different one from the original. So it's worth digging around sometimes into those different market segments that you've targeted against. The other options, just before I sort of close, I just want to point out that there's a full download. So whichever view you actually have on your info board and the filters applied at that time, you can download that full set of information into an editable PowerPoint. So that's very easy for you to use and feed into your own reports and also share with colleagues. We also have a Toluna Analytics tool. So what this will capture is every question that isn't in the info board, including your custom questions, but also it's a cross-break tool, so you can add subpopulations and interrogate the data to an even more detailed level if that's the requirement that you have. So lots and lots of different layers for different levels of access and also for sharing with different types of stakeholder and colleague. So that basically concludes my demo for today. It's a bit of a quick run through, but we're hugely proud of having created a truly end-to-end platform that's real time. It's also got automated solutions and automated insights built into it, and we can't wait for you to sort of try it out and let us know what you think. So thank you very much. And that concludes my part for today, and I'm going to hand you back to Phil.
All right. Thanks, Debbie. So, I hope you guys could be able to see that live in real time, just the power and the flexibility and the usability of that platform. Everything Debbie showed is real live projects that were launched, If you even pay attention to just how long some of the sample took, everything was in less than an hour. So real-time data, the audience you want, the type of work you want, delivered in an automated fashion. So now we're going to pivot to our panel discussion. And as people are starting to join, I see a few already on. I think we're waiting for 2 more, but I'll kind of go ahead and set the stage as those 2 kind of get their cameras situated. So I'm gonna have panel join us right now. We're gonna talk about new insights to support new product development, agility delivered. We'll get started. We're planning this to be about 20 to 25 minutes of a panel discussion. Then we'll leave 5 to 10 minutes at the end to take questions from the audience. So if you have a question for any of the panel members, including myself or Susan's on, put it in the chat box, and then our team will do our best to get it presented to us. We have a great panel of speakers for this session. So forgive me if I butcher some of these names, but I will try my best. We have Sibs, Senior Insights Manager from Premier Foods. Hey, Sibs. Eva, Marketing Manager at JTI. Nissa, Research Director at Facebook. And Joseph, Insights Lead, North America, Mondelez.
Nice.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. You guys hopefully witnessed most of that presentation, the platform discussion solely on NPD. Let's kind of get into it and discuss the role of new product development and the role that consumer insights plays within your respective businesses. Nissa, let's start with you.
Sure. So I'm sure, along with the rest of the panelists here, at Facebook, research really plays an intrinsic part of the development process, from very early on identifying the unmet opportunities that we should be exploring, through to testing prototypes, to iterating on the final product, and of course, measuring our success over time.
Excellent. Joseph, would you like to go next?
Yeah, so we, well, we're very fortunate. I find as research buyers, we have more tech-forward solution available to us than ever before. So the approach that we're taking, we'll call them more like flexitarian. So we've been taking a step back, really understand the context, the environment, the objective, the budget, and timing. And then from there, we look at all the possible solutions available to us. And that's how we did sort of create a program that best meet the needs for the business. So the recent study that we did, try to understand consumer for one of our brands. We combine mobile, homework, mobile ethnography, follow up with a 15-minute Zoom call. So it really allows us with a lot of flexibility to really come up with a fun way to gather insights, just because there's so many available to us today.
Yeah, the tech aspect is definitely something we're going to want to get into. So thanks for mentioning that. Sibs, kind of take us through what's going on at Premier Foods within your NPD process.
Yeah, great. A lot, actually. The great thing is I think increasingly more and more businesses are starting to see insights and research as a core part of that innovation process. There's always that interesting dynamic to break between being super entrepreneurial and kind of doing things on gut instinct. And I've had experience of that dynamic before working at a startup. Versus now where I'm at Premier Foods, we're dealing with big brands. And so agility in the innovation process has become increasingly important, particularly in food at a time like this. So I guess it's in 2 parts. I think there's certainly the other dynamic where we're needing more agile, fail fast solutions. But at the same time, insights is increasingly important pretty much across the board. So it's an interesting period, I think, over COVID, but certainly over the last kind of few years, about making sense of the market through the and consumers through the eyes of data. And our business is no different from that. So yeah, incredibly important.
Yeah, definitely. Eva, on JTI, how's your role kind of changed or progressed over this last year?
In JTI, our situation in tobacco, what can I say? This has been really difficult. As you can imagine, consumers are more confused than ever, because now with all this health concern, they are expecting us to really offer them miracles. They are expecting us to offer products that are pleasure, because for them smokers like smoking, so they need this pleasure. They don't want to renounce. But on the other side, they are more conscious than ever about health problems. So they expect us to offer similar products in terms of pleasure, but healthier, or at least not so damaging. And also now respectful with the rest of the people who are around them. So really we are in the middle of a big change. And let's see what happens, because these products are very difficult to develop. We are all launching some, but I believe from my point of view that consumers are still waiting for the really good products.
Well, definitely. And what I really liked about this panel is the experience and the backgrounds in each one of you from different industries. So it's a really good kind of segue into my next question about what we've kind of all went through in 2020. We've all seen unprecedented change. I think no one could have planned for 2020. If you did, then I mean, you're a genius, right? It's impossible. But we've all had to pivot. Like we've all had to rip up our strategies, do a 180 and pivot. How has that impacted your insights collection process overall as part of your teams? And what do you think you tried in 2020 because you had no other choice that you didn't expect to try at all? Maybe Nissa, I'll come back to you on that.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I would say change is a constant. So 2020 was certainly a year of change, but this is not the first year of change. So, while we as people in the market are constantly evolving, and I don't think that's new. What is new, as Susan also pointed out, is how we are able to understand people. So we used to rely on asking them, and now we can simply tap into some of people's innermost uncensored questions just by going to Google Trends or Answer the Public. And in a matter of minutes, we have the answer. So, for example, instead of running a concept test, you can run A/B tests to see which is performing best in the real world and by exactly how much. So even when I was running my own e-commerce business, as I'm sure many brands listening in are doing today, instead of running ad testing, you can simply use Facebook advertising, run multivariants to see which one is best performing by isolating the image, the text, the call to action, or the target, which as an entrepreneur was much faster and cheaper than running any kind of advertising research. So I think there's just so much more data available to us today, which means that we don't need to do research the way that we did before. And that doesn't mean that traditional types of research is dead. It just means that we can focus that research on what it's best used for, which is answering the why. And for us at Facebook, also understanding what happens outside of our platform.
Yeah, I think it's more critical than ever to have that 360-degree view of a consumer from, behaviors that they've done, why they've acted on these behaviors, and then, to be able to make a business decision on that. If it's just, a single question and a single answer that you're going to build your decisions on, that's a little bit of a tougher approach. Maybe this is a good lead-in for Susan, because, I think a lot of those comments directly kind of segue into what you presented.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It's been what we've seen from clients over this period is really a focusing on what's essential to speak to people about, and also maybe gathering data in different ways and really maximizing the resources they've got in-house. So to your point, Nisa, there's loads of data available. It's making sure that people bring it together and use it effectively, and also making sure that when they're going to speak to a consumer, they're doing so because it's genuinely needed and it's going to give them some additional insight. And that's where people want to kind of focus and spend their time. And if they need to work at pace, then it's bringing all those things together. So I completely agree. There's a plethora of approaches that can be used now. It's making sure you choose the right thing at the right time for people and being aware of what's available, not doing the same things just because you've done that in the past. It's being open to change, open to adapting. And we've seen that with the clients that we're working in. And I think the ones that are open to change, ones that are open to adapting their whole approach to working and maximizing and leveraging the data assets they've got, they're the ones that are taking the opportunities. They're the ones that are winning this difficult period of time.
Yeah. Is there anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like I mean, just from a agile solution perspective, we have basically shift to, I would say, like more than 60% of the work that we do today are probably more in the agile space. But even within agile, like we're looking at sort of the solution with more rigor and versus like something we call more like a self solution. Because like as you can see, like the market today is actually flooded with more the self agile solution than the one with rigor, but I really applaud for Toluna in terms of the advancement in the more rigorous approach space. So yeah, no, like and even like some of the big companies are getting into the agile space, but like, they're still claiming that it's like 2 weeks to get a result is considered agile, but to me that is not agile at all. Like, to me, like let anything that's within the 24 hour, 12 hours, to me that's more an agile approach.
Yeah. It's funny because from a product development standpoint and from this innovation stream that I lead over here, we all discuss what does agile mean to you, and half the room is speed, and I don't think it's speed, right? I think it's the ability to pivot to changes around you and in the environment around you to be able to collect answers. And obviously, speed has an important aspect to it, but it's about being flexible. It's about being able to pivot. What do you think about that? Maybe Sid, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I was going to add to that in terms of what I've seen the biggest kind of change to be in this kind of last year. It's hilarious to think that if you think back to this time last year or slightly earlier this time last year, there were Brexit folders and Brexit plans in folders everywhere somewhere, and that was the hot topic of the day. And it is the shock of the year that's almost required the business to ask different questions. And that's been where the penny starts to drop, and you just shine a light on how old methodologies cannot allow us to quickly answer new business questions. And that's been the experience, I think, that we're going through as a business, and the thing that's drawing us closer and closer to better agile solutions, because the shock of the year demanded that from us. And food is particularly interesting lens, just because stockpiling happened, and I mean FMCG in general, but food got very interesting for a while when human behavior changed overnight, as we were all kind of watching. You can't answer that if we're going to need to field something in a couple of weeks for 4 weeks and then draw some conclusions later on. So I think this year's definitely the shock of the year has demanded different business questions, and in doing so, created real space for agile solutions.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to come to you on this because in your intro, you did touch this, that you're in such a difficult product and industry right now, especially in this market. How have you had to adapt either the company's communication, the messaging, the ads of your products and your campaigns within this new market?
Are you? I didn't hear. It was me. Not really. We can't really change our messages because they are already totally regulated. So in fact, our reality has changed, and because of these health problems and so on. But the way we talk to consumers is very limited anyway. So there's nothing we can change about, because we already have very few messages we can address to the consumers. What has changed totally is our needs. That's clear as a company. Our needs in terms of insights, this has totally changed in very, very short time. Because what I am demanded now by my colleagues of marketing and sales is like support, a continuous support, more than these big sophisticated studies that we used to carry out. Now is more like a constant support on small queries, and this is very important, on reasons why, because we don't understand always what consumers are doing. In this category, acting and what they do and what they say is totally different. Right. Because what they would like to do is something, and what they really do is something very different. So understanding why they are doing this, why they are doing that, has become a question that I have on my table every time. And this feeling of constant contact with them to have some kind of inspiration, mainly. What to do, what can we do? Because some things can be expected. For instance, in tobacco, obviously, if all of a sudden we don't receive tourists. In Spain, last year, we received 85 million tourists. They stop coming all of a sudden. This is a huge volume, but nothing can be done about this. But many other behaviors are changing. We see that in volumes, but we don't really, it's difficult to understand why this is happening. And so for them, what to do. So what we are now looking for is more understanding that measuring almost, or at least a mixture. Some kind of art.
Yeah.
Art and science.
I understand. So, I want to pivot back to a point, Joseph, you mentioned in your intro in terms of leveraging solutions and technology. Now, I know you have a background in this. Maybe you can touch on certain tools or certain solutions that you guys have started incorporating over at Mondelez, especially this year with just the changing needs and the changing consumer sentiments around you.
Oh, is this for me?
Yeah, right.
Oh, okay. So I think for us, like we've been focusing a lot more on like progress over perfection. It's sort of our company DNA. And then like we've been doing a lot more like sort of experimentation, like learn fast. It's what we sort of try to strive in insight analytics. Like I personally have sort of onboarded at least like 6 new companies, all in the Agile space in the last 6 months, including Toluna. And then it's really allows us to really find sort of the fit with our just our fit and also the learning culture that we have. Like some fun solution we have is like more like sort of Agile max dev. It basically it's really transformed in terms of how we even like idea when it comes to innovation. It took us a week to come up with ideas with R&D to sort of work on, and then we brainstorm ideas, fine tune them, and get those ideas in front of consumers in the Agile platform all within like 12 hours. Which is something that it's like if you think about 2 years ago, it's probably something that we'll probably won't be able to do. But today, I think it's becoming so much more accessible. So it's a really fun time to be in the space as a research buyer.
Anyone want to add to that or bring it from their perspective?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of intrigued by that because we're in I would probably say a bit of an in-between, because we're quickly realizing that we want to be an agile business, but the reality of the situation is the make or break at the moment in terms of, do you have what it takes to be an agile business, is when you kind of get to see it at play. And so we're in this mid-process where there's this deep desire to be more agile, to be entrepreneurial, to have to fail fast with your ideas. But at the same time, actually what's happened through COVID is that brands like ours, so Premier Foods houses some of the UK's best household name brands. Our core has done exceptionally well. We've seen the human truth at play around the need for security, the need for normalcy, the things that you knew and loved. And so really, whilst we've been doing quite a lot of work in terms of how do we improve the innovation process and how do we make that agile to deal with the next crisis that comes in years to come, God forbid. Equally, we've not been allowed, and rightly so, to take our eyes off the ball in terms of the things that do work for the brand. So we've actually spent a lot more time really understanding what our brands mean to people and why is it that people have kind of flocked to those brands in a time of crisis. And yeah, there's been some brilliant solutions to getting to kind of unlock some of those deeper, more meaningful insights, but on a slightly different lens. So innovation is still important, still on the business agenda, but actually what we've learned is, hey, look, we've done really well. There must be something in these brands. How do we find out about it quickly? So,
yeah, I agree with Joe. I feel like we're really in a research renaissance right now, which is really exciting to me. Yeah. Over 5 years ago, when I was starting up the business-facing research team at Booking.com, we had the challenge of delivering insights at the speed of product, which meant the 6 to 8 week timeline was out the window. We were talking about a day or two if we wanted the insights to actually inform product decisions. So the more we delayed, the less consumer-centric we could be, or customer-centric we could be. And at the time, I had to kind of look for research agencies to partner with to pilot new approaches together or build things in-house from scratch. And only a few years later, when I joined Danone and we were revolutionizing our approach to NPD, then suddenly a lot of players had flooded the market and were offering agile solutions, which enabled us to, move from more traditional formats to getting insights in days for a fraction of the cost. So, I think it was long awaited, and I'm really excited for tools like these that you've just showcased, as well as others to enable us to deliver insights at the speed of
growth. And maybe just go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to add to that it's one of the reasons that really I feel like the onus is on the research process to change. And as a researcher, you have to embrace that because the decisions are going to be made. And if you miss the opportunity to input into those decisions, it's critical for the business, because if you're not going to have the consumer input, maybe it's only one thing that's inputting, fine, but it's the people, it's your target audience, the people you're trying to attract, the people you're trying to keep loyal. To your point earlier, it's people who love your brands and you want to take with you. If you're not going to involve them in the process because it takes too long to do that piece of research, then you're out. So it's really up to, I think, the research industry and the research process to have changed, not for the decisions to wait for the research.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think actually more and more businesses are kind of waking up to that. And I don't know what your lived experiences might be, but certainly I'm hearing from, the uppest of the ups that, look, we need an insight decision on this, or we need to lead with insights on this. And it's really just pushed the insight agenda and our role within each company. Specifically because of the shock of the year, really. There's so much more that we now realize we don't know and we need to get to know quickly. And that's been a positive kind of outcome.
Yeah.
Eva,
We in JTI, we were involved in this agile, in changing the whole marketing team into these agile systems and so on. I don't know, maybe 1.5 years ago. So it's true that introducing this agile system pushed us to a more consumer-centric approach. And I just took the chance to just do it easily with Toluna platform, because it's true that it's very, very easy to provide all these agile teams working on different products and different projects, just give them support on small things and many queries, things that they don't know what to do about, and so on. So it has, it has integrated naturally into the agile system, and I haven't had to do anything very difficult or complicated. It's just happened very easily, just like that. And they got used to get consumers' insight into their decision process very naturally. But because it's quick and it's easy and it's flexible, and because they don't have to do anything else, they just give me a call and say, I have this question, and after 20 hours they have it on the table. So they just got used to that very quickly.
Yeah, I'm not sure who mentioned this, but the amount of different solutions and capabilities in the market today is obviously greater than it's ever been. What do you all feel or need that the market isn't addressing today? Especially as we've all had to pivot so much in the last 6 months and find new ways to tap into how our consumers feel or how they feel about certain messages and product. What do you think the market's missing?
You mean research market?
Yeah, the industry as a whole, whether it be research companies or technology solutions, just in general. Like, what do you think your teams need or you need to be even more successful?
I personally think that I spend a lot of time in the foresight space. I would love to sort of to explore the foresight space for new products. As I feel like the current process, at least what I have experienced today, is still a very manual process because it's still having humans just to link all these data sources. Maybe it still need to do that, but it's a very long and also like a very tedious process to get to foresight. So personally, my wish would be like, it would be amazing to have a automation, some kind of automated platform that link the AI, EI, like in place to link all the different data points to predict the food and also consumer trends for the future. That would be sort of my personal wish, just based on my experience today. Yeah.
Sibs, you're nodding hard.
I'm nodding vehemently. I really am. I have two actually. Basically that. Put it all in one place for goodness sake and let it tell a story. I have seen that once done to about 80% really well. Outside of that, it's hard to find. You know, I can name one decent researcher who's gone through that rigor because they had the same frustrations, and just removed the, you know, trying to align that data set with that one and that trend with that one, and, you know, trying to put it all in one place, use technology, use the coding, and use it all to put it all into one place and really tell a story from brand to sales to shopper to consumer. Put it all in one place is one smoking gun for me. And then I'd probably say the second, and this is more from a consumer and somewhat shopper lens, getting closer to consumers in the moment. I've become somewhat obsessed with more kind of in the moment data, because I've learned over the years that we you know, when you're working for the brand and all you do is focus on the brand and the consumer's experience of that brand, you'd sometimes tend to think that that's what they do too. And most of the time they don't care. They're not sitting there pondering, you know, about these big brands. Some do, they're really obsessive, but more often than not, that's not the case. And so it's all about really getting in those moments. So what happens when you do select said brand? What's the kind of exchange that's happening in that moment? Two, if I could get great agile solutions that really put us close to those two spaces, I would be a happy lady.
Yeah,
so not asking for much.
I'd say plus one on the foresight. It's the downside of having so much information available to us today, like Joe said, is connecting the dots and being able to piece together the picture. And the second piece that maybe I feel most acutely on the panel is we're a tech company, but having been in tech companies for a while, feel this pain for a few years now, is that usability testing tools don't connect with other types of tools. So we have to work across a different suite of technological tools. So, you know, I would love something where all the unmoderated interviews, all the moderated interviews are immediately transcribed, and then that text is analyzed to unearth the trend in the feedback that we're hearing across all geographies, across all product teams. So we have over 700 researchers here, so trying to piece that together manually, it's impossible.
Yeah.
We need some AI help there.
Well, I have a dream too. It's very similar to some of the dreams mentioned, because something that we haven't achieved in this industry is integration. It's an integration of different sources and different ways to analyze data. And I'll give you a very simple example. I am now, this morning, I received a briefing, and I know that to answer to these questions, I'll have to work on our tracker, on a specific analysis with this agency. I'll have to do something with Toluna, I take the chance to say it. And also, I will go through a co-creation and qualitative online focus groups or whatever, or interviews or whatever. So I'll work with 3 agencies at least. And at the end, I will do it myself. I mean, I will have different sources and I will need to work on an integrated report, because I'm not going to send my department 4 different sources of information, because they will never read them.
Yeah.
So I will need to work on an integrated final report, which will mean a lot of work. And so this is something, the integration of different types of research or even that data sources is something that nobody is providing. I think it's very time consuming. Maybe it's something difficult, maybe technically to do.
Yeah, Susan, maybe you can respond to that especially from a Harris Interactive perspective, because you guys are always pulling in multiple different sources of data and then creating a story, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we see it ourselves. So sometimes when we're working with clients and they're asking us to bring together different projects for them, or we could be one piece of the puzzle. And we know that, you can feel the pain with the person you're working with, because you know what they've got to do on the back end. And, that's a very time consuming process. So, we're seeing definitely from clients asking people to be aware of the data they've already got, so it's not duplicated, making sure you're synthesizing it when you can, and then working people who are just open to working with other agencies as well, to make sure you're helping with that process. So absolutely, I mean, I think it is a challenge that is felt across all the industry sectors that we work in. It's not just for a couple. I think it's almost data overload for some people at the moment. So it kind of goes back to the point we were talking about earlier. It's about really picking and choosing what questions you really need answering, and making sure that you are you're highly curating the work that you do and bringing together the answers that you need just to make the decisions you need to make, rather than gathering information for the sake of it. So actually links quite a few of the themes that we've been talking about today together. And yeah, I definitely think it's across multiple categories.
Yeah, and from a product and solutions perspective, I mean, the notion of data integration, single source, is not going to go away. It's going to be actually even more hyper-focused today than ever. What we've done with the new launch of the platform is the start of a basis point for us. Is you have all your quant, your qual, your tracking, your historical information all in one source, and then keeping it an open platform so we can easily and seamlessly integrate CRM information, DMP information, and now you've got a single holistic view of that consumer 360 degrees. And then also you can always go back in time, tap into data. We're doing so much research today. We've done, over the past 3 months, over the past year. How often are companies going back in and seeing what that research is to help them make decisions moving forward? And I say very rarely today. These are all progress points for us as we kind of build in for the rest of 2020 and looking into 2021.
I think that's quite interesting, just to tie up that conversation, because where I've tried to look really intensively at single source or single data source, like what are the business groups all in one place, it always ends up in this kind of like weird conundrum between, or rather this question of like, does the single source mean single supplier? And that's where we always kind of go, oh, but we get that from there, and then that from there, and they're the best at that, but not the best. So does single source equal single supplier, and how does a supplier turn themselves into a single source?
I don't think a single supplier is going to get you everything, right? But I think the technology and the tool that you're able to use today, you can aggregate and you can come to, a single look and view into the data. Some of our biggest and most advanced clients are using our data and then using these heavy data science teams to be able to now move into reporting on what's happened and then moving to predicting what's going to happen. And I think that's where we want to position ourselves to be the biggest help to you, is to be that engine that helps you predict those future behaviors and those future instances that happen before it's even too late.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
That's the dream.
There you go.
That is the dream. Honestly, make my dreams come true, guys.
We're working on it. I think this is like the starting point for us to be able to do that. The combination of quant, and then all the tracking mechanisms and tools that we have to collect on our own panel experience is a really good basis point. And now to seamlessly integrate with third party and other sources of data gets us even one step closer. Now I'd like to pivot to any audience questions. Adrian or Janice, do we have a couple for this amazing panel?
Yeah, there's actually, I see where we've been chatting. There's a few that have come through. So let's see how many we can get through. So the first one is obviously, the launch was only on Monday. So if we could provide some information about what the initial feedback has been, so hot off the press, perhaps you can give some feedback, Phil.
Yeah, I mean, we went through a good 2.5-month beta with some key stakeholders across the set of clients we've had. So the feedback is much in line with what we expected. The new user experience, the ease of use, the ability to launch a sophisticated concept or product or pack testing solution within a few buttons has been really positive, and actually one of the main goals of the system. For us, one of the main positives is a big switch from what Quick Survey or our previous Toluna Insights platform was to this was just usability. How hard was it going to be to train or to learn? And it seems like the platform is intuitive enough that that's been quite an easy adoption for our users. So really thrilled and happy with that. Now we just want to see an abundance of usage from all of you.
And then we've got quite an interesting question here that's coming. So obviously there's some big brands on the panel here. And the question is, obviously there's a demand for quicker and really speedy information, but how easy it is within your organizations to actually take the decision at the same speed that you want the information. And I suppose the question is, how quick do the decisions are taken, particularly if you're testing a concept, and then obviously it's a longer innovation cycle.
Great question.
It's a good question, yeah. I think the speed need is more in the need of having the information, but then acting on this information is not so quick.
I think, yeah, I would actually add to that this year has been a stress test on what does it take to call yourself an agile organization, because agility in getting data and information in does not equal agility in decision making. Exactly. And that's the heart of that question, isn't it? Yet to tell, but I do think that it varies, I guess, I would imagine, by organization, but certainly from a Premier Foods point of view, the commitment is there to do, to make quicker decisions and be more agile. So it's a great question, and I think it depends on the organization, but certainly agility of information does not equal agility of decision.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Like, I mean, it also depends on the initiatives. Like some initiative where we have a much tighter timeline, like for example, like getting something in market for 2022, then like, obviously like, the speed like does help. But for once we're like, it takes a much longer, like in CPG, the process is always much longer than like compared to like a food service or QSR, for example. So like, I think like, yeah, like that, like the learning that you get might not always get implemented as quickly as you would like. But yeah, but I think it varies on the initiatives too.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be the odd one out because it's reversed for us because, as I said earlier, product decisions are made super quickly every day. And so it's more of the challenge to us to keep up, make sure that insights are at the foundation of our decisions. But if I think back to when I worked at Danone or McDonald's with some more comparable context, we still found that in switching out tools to agile tools, we shortened the total process. So even if some steps take longer, the whole life cycle of the project went from being, maybe a year to 9 months. Us tightening up our piece of the puzzle, and I think that's all we can do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I suppose this is an interesting question because we've been talking a lot about how we've all needed to adapt, how we've all needed to change, and actually the questions about what learnings that you've had maybe over the last 3 to 6 months are you going to keep and use going forward rather than just having to use them because they were needed at the time. So maybe what learnings are you going to go forward with as the essence of that question? Maybe we could start with Lisa.
But learning exactly from what?
Sorry, I thought you said Nissa.
I didn't understand very well.
So just to repeat the question, the essence of the question was, what have you learned? What in the past 3 to 6 months, the new learnings that you've put in place? What are you going to take forward?
Okay.
And Nissa, do you want to go ahead and answer?
Okay, it is me this time. Sure. So actually, one of the things that was really effective for us during COVID-19 was a quick community that we set up with you on Toluna. And that was something I think we'll repeat, because it was, we kind of democratized access to the panel. So we made it, so it was for small businesses, because my team is focused on helping businesses to grow and succeed on our platforms, and many of those businesses are small. So we had this panel of small businesses that we recruited very quickly, because we wanted to see how they were responding to COVID and how we could lean in to develop services to support them, which we did with things like shops, which enables them to start selling online without having to set up an e-commerce website, or the COVID Information Center to make sure people had the most up-to-date information about how to keep them safe. So we made this panel accessible to all teams. They could come in and ask their questions. And so we were able to serve over a dozen teams internally and get over 50 project questions answered in a matter of just 2 months' time. We had, I think, about a 2-week startup up and running. So it was a big success in that, the ROI was really high, because lots of teams got the benefit. We had insights coming in within 24 to 48 hours. And we made the best use of a relatively limited population. It's much harder to recruit businesses than it is consumers. So I think that's something we'll repeat. And the secondary fantastic benefit of that was also that the community itself actually helped small businesses to survive, because they were sharing advice and learnings with each other as part of this community. So it was actually kind of a support network in addition to a research tool for us. So I think that was also a good learning to maybe in the future just become part of the conversation rather than research.
Fantastic.
Joseph?
Yeah, I will say definitely so online focus groups and like any sort of online based interviews. I don't even know if we'll ever go back to like how we were running like qualitative research in like compared to the past. So I think like with this COVID, I think it's really transformed in terms of how we're running any qualitative type of research. Yeah, even Zoom interviews. I mean, I actually personally really love them. It could be like 20 minutes, it's really short, but like, it just, the experience is like, it's unbelievable. Yeah. So I would definitely, that would be something that we'll keep doing for sure.
I mean, that wasn't a huge surprise, I'd say, from our end when everything went on lockdown, that we had to find an alternative for, in-person focus groups, and, leveraging quick communities, which for us is such a great qualitative tool, real-time qualitative tool, basically to get, verbatim answers and so on and so forth. But to be able to leverage that as an alternative for online or in-person focus groups to be transitioned to online, that was kind of a big kind of use case for us, and realizing, okay, there's more to this than just an add-on to your enterprise community or to your survey. You can do online focus group studies with it.
Yeah, I was going to make. Sorry.
That was very short. Is that we just moved even for co-creation processes to online, which I was really reluctant to do it, and it worked quite well, in fact. So it's true that many of these technologies might be here to stay. Yeah. And I think that thinking about this in a more general way, maybe I think that these crisis situations, I have discovered that they are a big opportunity for the whole industry, in fact. Absolutely. For not only for research, for everything. I live this in my small world, okay? But I think it's for the whole insights, strategic insights industry, or whatever you call it, this is a huge opportunity, because I have realized how important we become when reality becomes complicated.
Yeah.
And we need to take advantage of this. We all.
Yeah. I was going to make pretty much the same point. I remember shopping around when I was working at the startup last year, shopping around for Agile qual solutions, and communities were, it was like, oh, hey, look, we've got communities and we can do hubs and it was like the secondary good alternative, cost efficient, but a secondary alternative. And now it's what we were relying on. So whoever had that set up already has only been in the winner's circle. And I don't think that that's going to change anytime soon. We've actually used COVID to prove the concept that actually it can be done equally as good. In some ways, even better than calling people into a room. So I've been very impressed with that. And we ourselves, that's the one thing that we as a business moved to do very quickly, is set up some kind of community and some kind of hub where we can get to know people and follow them throughout this journey. And the value of that is just, it comes in droves. It does democratize the perceptions in the boardroom as well. So you're always drawing from the right kind of lens. So that's definitely something that's worth keeping. It's interesting that it's all qual as well.
Yeah.
It's getting closer.
Shameless plug. If you go to TolunaLive.com, if you haven't seen or experienced quick communities, you will. That's exactly what we built that off of. And you can build that into a start, right? So go there. Any more questions for us or even this panel here, we'll get it to them through that medium. I thank you all so much for your time. I have a KPI to hit, which has to end in 1 minute. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to wrap up. So I appreciate everyone's engagement and participation in this session. Remember, this goes on for 2 more days. Day 2, we're focusing on collaboration within your industry, collaboration within your teams. We're going to be showing the features of the Toluna Start platform within that. And I look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Have a good one.